Some communities can hold their breath longer than the best freedivers. Others are born with genes that help them fight off disease or regulate low oxygen stress. You won't find these people in a movie. You'll find them on a map. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 ordinary cultures with extraordinary abilities. The Bajau from the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia have lived on and off boats for generations, hunting underwater with nothing but a spear and one massive breath. Some can stay underwater at depths of 200 feet for over 10 minutes. I mean, for reference, the average human can do about 90 seconds, and that's pushing it. A study in Cell found that the Bajau's spleens are 50% larger than those of the people in neighboring island groups, which basically gives them a natural oxygen reserve. Researchers have linked it to a gene variant that influences spleen size, similar to traits we've seen in deep-diving animals like seals. So when I say they're exceptional, I am not exaggerating. Far from the sea, Nepal's Sherpas have lived above 14,000 feet for thousands of years, so they can hike to Everest Base Camp like it's just another part of their daily grind, which got scientists curious. After numerous studies, they discovered that Sherpa mitochondria, the parts of cells that produce energy, are much better at using oxygen. Their systems don't waste any, and they can even generate energy with very little oxygen at all. On top of that, their red blood cell count only rises slightly at altitude, so they don't have the thick, sludgy blood that slows everyone else down. All of this means less strain, more energy, and a profound edge in the mountains. On the flip side, when you and I engage in vigorous exercise, our heart rates usually rise to about 70 to 85% of our maximum capacity. For a 25-year-old, that's roughly 140 to 170 beats per minute, which sounds great. If you're fit, that's reasonable. Most of us can maintain that level for about 20 to 30 minutes before fatigue kicks in. Now, in contrast, young warriors from the Maasai and Samburu communities take part in the Adumu, a traditional jumping dance you've probably seen in a few documentaries. It involves repeated vertical jumps from a standing position and can last anywhere from 30 minutes to over an hour. During these sessions, their heart rates average around 122 beats per minute. I know, it sounds lower, right? But their physical exertion doesn't stop there. Daily life for these warriors also includes herding cattle across massive terrains, pushing their average energy expenditure to around 2,565 kilocalories per day above basal levels. That's basically like running a marathon every single day. Add in those ritual dances, and it's pretty clear. Their level of cardiovascular endurance is almost superior in every way. You'll find that same kind of incredible ability when you look at the Polynesian navigators of the Pacific. These wayfinders from places like Hawaii, Samoa, and Aotearoa, New Zealand, have been sailing across thousands of miles of open ocean for centuries without GPS, maps, or even a compass. Relying on nothing but oral history, memory, and sharp observation, they've committed star charts to memory, know how to track wave patterns, read wind shifts, and even follow the flight paths of birds to steer their canoes. Their mental maps are so precise, they can name individual stars. And their connection to the ocean is so refined, they can feel subtle changes in swells and adjust course, sometimes non-stop, for weeks. The accuracy they achieve without a single modern tool is almost impossible to grasp. Although if you're Moana, you have Pua and Hei, so that might be cheating. And Maui. She was a wayfinder. Meanwhile, the community of Igbo-Ora is known for something totally different. Twins. Lots of them. This small Yoruba town in southwestern Nigeria has the highest natural twinning rate in the world, about 4 times the global average. Yeah, while most places see around 12 twins per 1,000 births, Igbo-Ora reports up to 50. Researchers think it might be linked to their diet, but no one's actually found a definitive cause just yet. What's clear is that this isn't just a genetic one-off, and it's not limited to a single family. It's widespread. Entire blocks are filled with twins. There's even an annual festival where hundreds of identical and fraternal pairs show up to celebrate what the rest of us still see as a rare occurrence. Moving on. Much like the Sherpas of Nepal, the Aymara, people of the Andes, have adapted to life at extreme altitude. But their adaptation doesn't just help them breathe at heights most of us can't handle, it may also improve how they respond to certain cancers. Around 90% of the Aymara carry a unique variant of the NFKB1 gene, which helps regulate inflammation. That matters, because at high altitudes, chronic inflammation can lead to blood clots and other serious complications. But here's where it gets truly interesting. Researchers discovered that cancer patients with this same gene variant responded better to treatment and were more likely to go into remission. Research is underway to replicate the gene's effects in cancer patients who don't naturally carry the mutation to see if it can offer the same benefits. Closer to the equator, the Twa are believed to be the original inhabitants of Rwanda in Central Africa, and are often grouped among the region's many indigenous pygmy populations. Averaging about 5 feet tall, the Twa have long been adapted to life in the dense equatorial rainforest. Their smaller stature helps them conserve energy, move easily through thick undergrowth, and avoid overheating in the humidity. But agility is where they really shine. Studies have shown that the Twa have unusually long calf muscle fibers, which give them ankle flexibility and tree climbing ability that most people just don't have. It's fast, smooth, and almost second nature. Today, they live in and around the Lake Kivu region of Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi, where many still hunt, gather, and specialize in pottery. If the Twa are built for agility, the Tarahumara of northern Mexico are built for distance. Living in the mountains of northern Mexico, they're known for their ability to run for hours. Sometimes it's part of a ritual game, chasing a wooden ball or hoop. Other times, it's just how they get from one place to another. And they do it all in thin wooden sandals. In fact, one runner, Maria Lorena Ramirez, went viral after winning a 50-kilometer ultramarathon in her huaracha sandals, then casually turning down offers from major sports brands, saying, "The people who wear them are always behind me." They're always in motion, walking, dancing, running, and it's made them some of the most naturally conditioned endurance runners in the world. On a totally different note, the Mongolian tradition of throat singing is a vocal skill like no other. Known as kumi, it's a technique where one singer produces 2 tones at once, a deep, steady drone underneath a high whistle-like melody. It takes years of practice, razor-sharp breath control, and full-body precision to pull it off. Throat singing started with indigenous communities in the Altai and Sayan Mountains, places like Western Mongolia, Tuva, and parts of southern Siberia. At one point, it was actually banned by communist governments who saw it as too spiritual or backward. But people kept it alive the old way, by passing it down voice to voice, generation to generation, and it made a full comeback. Today, it's used for everything from lullabies and storytelling to spiritual rituals and animal calls. Moving back to South America, the Tsimane people of Bolivia have managed something the whole world still struggles with: staying heart healthy well into old age. Researchers have found that about 90% of adults over the age of 40 are living with absolutely no signs of arterial plaque. Even more surprising, among elders aged 75 and up, 2/3 still had absolutely no coronary artery calcium. That is practically unheard of, especially when you compare it to Western populations. They're not on heart meds, not tracking their cholesterol, nothing. And despite facing high levels of inflammation from infections, their cardiovascular health is off the charts. In fact, it's the lowest rate of heart disease ever recorded in any known population on Earth. Alright, most of us are familiar with the Fore people of Papua New Guinea. They used to practice ritual cannibalism, which led to a devastating epidemic of Kuru, a fatal brain-wasting disease. But somewhere along the line, it also led to something extraordinary: resistance. At the height of the outbreak in the 50s, Kuru was killing up to 2% of the Fore every year. But over time, a gene variant spread through the tribe that made them immune, not just to Kuru, but to all prion diseases, including Creutzfeldt-Jakob and even mad cow disease. It's one of the clearest examples of human evolution in action. And the most amazing thing is that scientists now think the same gene might hold the key to understanding Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Over in Japan, the Okinawan people have quietly built a reputation as some of the longest living humans on Earth. Their tiny island has the highest concentration of centenarians in the whole world, 61 for every 100,000 people. For comparison, the US, we just averaged 10. Their secret? Okinawan culture emphasizes plant-based meals, portion control, staying active well into old age, and something called ikigai, a deep sense of purpose. Combine that with tight-knit social groups and regular community gatherings, and, well, you've got a lifestyle that's basically engineered for longevity. In some of the world's most remote monasteries, Tibetan Buddhist monks are also doing things that still baffle scientists, like using meditation to control their body temperature. The practice is called Jitumo, or inner fire, and it allows them to generate heat in freezing conditions. No, I am not kidding. In one Harvard-led study, monks meditated in rooms chilled to 40 degrees Fahrenheit while wrapped in cold, wet sheets. Within an hour, steam was rising off of them, and the sheets actually dried. They've even slept outside on mountain ledges in sub-zero temperatures wearing nothing but cotton shawls, and in some cases, they've dropped their metabolism by more than 60%. All of it comes down to years of focus, tradition, and mastering the stuff the rest of us ignore. In the Arctic, the Inuit have spent thousands of years adapting to brutal extremes: freezing temperatures, long winters, and a high-fat, no-vegetable diet built around seals and whales. And those conditions didn't just shape their culture, they left a mark on their DNA. Researchers studying Inuit from Greenland actually found that they have rare gene variants that help them metabolize omega-3 fats more efficiently. One of them, in the FADS gene cluster, shows up in nearly every Inuit tested, but barely exists in Europeans or East Asians. They've also got adaptations tied to brown fat, which helps them to generate body heat without shivering. Their genes even protect them against heart disease and diabetes, so their traditional diet works for them, even if it wouldn't for the rest of us. There's also a community where entire conversations happen purely through whistling. On the island of La Gomera in the Canary Islands, locals used silbo gomero, a whistled version of Spanish that replaces every vowel and consonant with distinct tones. With enough practice, people can speak clearly across valleys and deep ravines. It's been passed down for centuries from master to apprentice, and today, it's the only fully developed whistled language still used by a whole community. It's even taught in schools just to keep it alive. More than 22,000 people understand it, and most of the island still uses it, especially during festivals or ceremonies. Then again, language isn't the only thing that can set a community apart. Scientists have been studying a tight-knit Ecuadorian village where most of the residents are unusually short, a rare genetic trait that led to early research on dwarfism. But the longer they looked, the stranger things got. Many of these villagers have a rare condition called Laron syndrome. It limits their growth, but it also seems to shield them from cancer and diabetes. In fact, after more than 20 years of tracking, none of them have developed either disease. What's even more interesting is how their cells behave under a microscope. They take less damage and are more likely to shut down abnormal growths early. They don't live longer than their neighbors, but whatever's going on inside their bodies might help the rest of us age a whole lot smarter, if we can ever figure out what their secret is. Culturally speaking, Aboriginal Australians developed one of the most durable systems for recording and sharing knowledge without writing anything down. They're called songlines, and they basically work like spoken maps. Each one traces the path of ancestral beings who moved through the land, shaping it as they went. That path, marked by caves, waterholes, cliffs, and stars, is remembered through song. And that song tells you everything: where water is, where food can be found, which areas are dangerous, how to behave, and why. Most of them are still known today, and their secrets are often held by specific elders, clan groups, or custodians. It's a law, a map, and a memory, all at once. I wonder if that's where James Cameron got the song beads from Avatar. Could be. James, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments below. I know you're watching. James Cameron, big fan of List 25. And yet, halfway across the world, another community has managed to hold on to something just as rare. The Massaco are one of the last uncontacted tribes in the world, and they're thriving. So, what makes them extraordinary? Well, aside from growing in population and successfully keeping everyone out with hand-carved spike traps that can take out a truck, what's incredible is that they use 3-meter-long bows. Nobody knows how they managed to shoot them. Anthropologists haven't seen anything like it. They also live in 5-meter-high palm shelters and speak a language no one's been able to decipher, not even other native tribes. And, well, that's kind of the point. The Massaco have figured out how to keep their world intact by staying completely out of ours. I should also talk about the Vadoma tribe in northern Zimbabwe, who carry a rare genetic condition called ectrodactyly, which basically causes the middle 3 toes in their feet to be absent. The result is feet that almost look claw-like, which earned them the nickname ostrich-footed tribe. Ectrodactyly only appears in 1 in 90,000 births in the rest of the world, but among the Vadoma, the rate is significantly higher. In fact, in some family lines, it can appear in as many as 1 in 4 children. According to research, the community has a dominant gene that is passed down through generations, and the tribe's geographic isolation prevents it from being diluted. What makes it extraordinary is that, according to some reports, those who have it actually use their feet more efficiently for tree climbing and gathering, so it's become an unexpected advantage instead of a handicap. Okay, let's cover another unique gene variant, but let's do one that's challenged one of medicine's biggest assumptions. The CHamoru people of Guam and Saipan carry a gene variant that, at first glance, seems totally contradictory. It's linked to higher body weight and a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Normally, those two don't go together. Like, at all. However, researchers looking at Pacific Islanders have discovered that people with a specific version of the CREBRF gene, called the A allele, have better blood sugar control, especially after meals. Some of those in the studies even show improved insulin sensitivity, despite having a higher BMI than average. Scientists hope that their ongoing research will eventually help us treat, or even prevent, type 2 diabetes in other populations. Let's go back to Australia one last time. A few minutes ago, I talked about Aboriginal songlines, how entire landscapes are memorized and passed down through story from generation to generation. But there's also a community in Cape York with a completely different way of mapping the world, by building direction into the way they speak. The Guugu Yimithirr language doesn't use left or right at all. Everything is described using fixed directions, north, south, east, and west. So instead of saying your left foot, someone might say your southwest foot. It sounds confusing until you realize that everyone in the community just knows where they are all the time. Even when they're blindfolded or spun around, they can instantly point to true north. Their ability is so incredible that some researchers have actually said that their sense of orientation, quote, borders on superhuman. And then there's the Sateré-Mawé, a tribe that lives deep in the Amazon rainforest who have one of the most brutal initiation rituals on Earth. Here, young boys are expected to prove that they're ready to become warriors, and they do it by willingly subjecting themselves to the sting of the bullet ant. Yes, those bullet ants. Their sting has been ranked among the most painful of any insects. We even have a list on that, so check that out. Often compared to being shot, and the agony can last up to 24 hours. To prepare for the ritual, the ants are first sedated and then woven into gloves made of leaves, stingers facing inward. Once they wake up, the boys insert their hands into the gloves and hold them there for 10 straight minutes. Kind of gives you Dune vibes. You'd think once would be enough, but no, this has to be done 20 times over several months or even years. Each round just as painful as the last, and none of it is optional. Which brings me to the San Bushmen of southern Africa. Apart from being known as one of the oldest human populations on Earth, seriously, their DNA contains some of the most ancient genetic lineages ever recorded, they're also famous for a form of hunting that almost no one practices anymore. Persistence hunting. Instead of ambushing prey or using weapons at a distance, sand hunters will track an animal for hours during the hottest part of the day, running to the point of collapse. And they're built for it. The San have long limbs, minimal body hair, and an exceptional sweating ability that gives them a physical edge most of us don't have. They don't rely on speed. They rely on stamina. They can outlast animals built for running and have even been known to outrun horses. At number 2 on today's list, we have Iceland, a country with fewer than 400,000 people that's produced 9 World's Strongest Man titles. Per capita, no other country even comes close. Iceland has produced legends, from Jan Paul Sigmarsson in the 80s to Magnus Sverre Magnusson in the 90s, and more recently, Hafþór Thor Júliusborgsson, yes, the guy who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones, who won the title in 2018 and broke the deadlift world record at 501 kilograms. These people are strong. Researchers have looked into their DNA, and it's not all training. Some studies point to genetic traits like the ACTN3 gene linked to fast-twitch muscle fibers, which shows up more often in elite power athletes. There's also talk of other variants like ARC2N that may give Icelanders a natural edge when it comes to raw strength. Throw in a culture that still celebrates stone lifting, long winters that keep people indoors and training, and a national obsession with pushing limits, yeah, it starts to make sense. Finally, the Moken are an Austronesian sea nomad community living along the coasts of Thailand and Myanmar. Their children grew up diving for clams, sea cucumbers, and shellfish, and over time, they've learned to see underwater better than almost anyone else on Earth. When scientists tested their eyesight, they found that Moken children could see underwater twice as clearly as European children. What makes this even more incredible is how they do it. Their pupils shrink smaller than usual, and their lenses adjust shape to focus underwater, just like seals and dolphins. It's a visual adaptation you usually only see in marine animals. Unfortunately, though, the ability fades with age because the human lens gets stiffer over time, making it harder to focus underwater. Researchers obviously wanted to figure out if it was a genetic trait, and then ran underwater training with European kids. And after just a few weeks, they could see just as clearly. So it's not about special biology. It's a skill. But like with most things, it only sticks if you start young and use it often. Now that I've gone through all 25, which one impressed you the most? Or better yet, which ability do you secretly wish you had? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're still in the mood for real people doing unreal things, check out our related video, 25 people with real superpowers. We've got human lightning rods, unbreakable bones, and a guy who's just about immune to snake venom. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and I'll see you again next time. Adios.